Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to quickly get us set up here with the tune, let people start rolling in, and we'll get going. Give me 1 second here. Real quick, everyone, make sure you share the space out, tag a friend, let people know what's happening, because we're about to get into some pretty sweet stuff right after this tune. You're just hopping in. Make sure you share the space. We're almost there. All right. Let's get going here. Let me just switch my audio settings back over so I can get bada bing, bada boom. All right. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. We're finally back. We took a little bit of time off last week just to watch things and take a little bit of a rest. And now we're going to get back starting this week here. Today's first stream, I guess, X Space. So I'm really looking forward to this because there has been so many things that have changed, that have happened, and it's been pretty wild to watch both of these systems. So we have TORUS on Ethereum, and we have UNITY over on PulseChain, and they're both completely different animals. Well, they're also both very much in different stages of where they are in their process of growing, evolving, and really playing out. So in this space, what we're going to be doing is I am going to be bringing you what's been happening over the last week and a half, what we're seeing, what are the important things to pay attention to, as well as we're going to dive a lot into shares. I really want each and every one of you to understand shares in TORUS and UNITY. For those that understand shares, you are going to make the most of the system. If you do not understand shares and how the system revolves around giving opportunities for shares, you're going to make either poor decisions or you're going to legitimately think that something terrible is happening if there's a correction in the price as it's moving back to the specific ratios relative to, let's say, TitanX or PLSX, depending on which one it's paired with, that actually makes the system healthy. So before we get going, again, share this out, tag a friend, bring someone else in here. And also, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tear because we have a lot to talk about. But I also want to ask that if you have questions, at some point, please ask for the mic. This is an open forum for everyone to come up and ask questions. There aren't no questions that are too hard. I do want this to be something where it's more interactive, though I want to start off with a more podcast style of a space here initially, just because there's so much to cover. So again, if you want to come up and you want to speak, please ask for the mic. I'll bring you up. And then when it's time, I will call on you to, we'll start chatting. So let's start off by talking about, just TORUS and UNITY as a whole, and then shares. And then what I want to do is I want to start with talking about, or what we'll move into is the difference in the way the two systems are operating, because they're in polar opposite, modes right now, so to speak, right? Unity's price is sky high, nearly $22, which is insane. And the ratio is over 700,000 PLSX to 1. And TORUS is sitting down near its bottom of the ratio, which is about 8.5 million to 1, where it should be around 10 million to 1. So there's a huge disparity between the two systems. And this is perfect for today's discussion because I want to talk about shares. So for those of you that are new or that are going to be listening back to this, and this is your first time hearing about TORUS or Unity, these systems are identical, but they're built on different chains and on different tokens specifically. So TORUS is built on Ethereum, and it's built on top of and leverages TitanX. Unity is built on PulseChain and leverages and is built on top of PLSX or PulseX. So what we're going to talk about, though, is the systems themselves. And the systems operationally are identical. How they'll behave is going to be completely different based on the community, the ecosystem, and the token it's built on top of. But for the purpose of this, the share system is identical between the two. So please understand that when I'm talking about shares, this applies equally to both systems. So the biggest thing to understand in the system is that this is it's not just a system, it's a token, right? But the system allows you to get the token. So we're going to start with what the token is. So as a refresher, this is a token that is very similar to Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin comes out every day, every so many minutes, and miners can earn those tokens, or those coins, I guess, in this case, because they're not tokens, they're not ERC20s. They can earn these coins, by competing with one another. Now, the supply initially was very abundant. There were 50 Bitcoin, so 50 BTC block rewards every so many minutes. So over time, every 4 years from that starting point, there was a halvening, right? A difficulty increase in acquiring those tokens. So this asset became more and more and more scarce over time. And as time has gone on, now we've gone from 50 BTC blocks to I think it's around 3 at the moment. I have to double check on that. But it's gone down tremendously, right? So it's become incredibly difficult to acquire those tokens. So it's a very scarce asset, right? Unity and TORUS are that same type of asset where initially supply is abundant. There's a lot of supply to get, right? But over time, it gets tremendously difficult to acquire these tokens, right? Now, the difference between TORUS and Unity, though, to Bitcoin or something like Bitcoin, is that in Bitcoin, you don't need Bitcoin to earn more Bitcoin, right? What you're getting in tokens or your coins in Bitcoin don't have any leverage really to your ability to earn. So this is where we bring in TORUS and Unity, where you have a BTC-like asset that is getting more scarce every single day. So it has this future potential scarcity that can be applied to it, which can potentially give it some immense future value, depending on how adoption goes, just for the sake of it being an asset like that as it is. Now, what we have to take into consideration is the only way for you to earn this BTC-like super scarce asset is for you to take the token that you've earned and use them back in the system as keys to continue earning the super scarce asset. So I'm going to say this again. This asset that gets incredibly difficult to acquire over time is simultaneously the very key that you need to continue to earn and continue to grow your ability to earn or maintain relevance in your ability to earn in the system. This is hugely important to understand because it separates it from something like BTC or something like any other asset out there where, you have something that is going to be very scarce and you apply demand into it via you need TORUS or UNITY in order to continue to earn TORUS or UNITY. And this is where we get into how this works, right? Is that these tokens have a number of shares that they will always represent in the system, right? So when you stake one UNITY or create one UNITY, doesn't matter which action, we'll get into the actions maybe if we need to a little bit more, but these are the two actions. Creation is better when there's higher prices. Staking is better when there's lower prices. And the long story short on this is that when prices are high, creating gets you a discount on shares versus buying on the market. And when the price goes down, buying on the market gets you shares at a discount versus creating. That's as simple as it is. So both actions are getting you shares. Shares are the critical piece to understand of this system. So when you are staking your UNITY or your TORUS, you're actually taking your TORUS and UNITY and converting them into shares. And so this here is the critical piece to understand, is that when you are earning TORUS or UNITY, when you're buying TORUS or UNITY, you're simultaneously acquiring shares. When you're earning TORUS or UNITY, you're acquiring shares. So if we relate this back to Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter how much Bitcoin that you get. It only matters because of your USD value or because of the future value. It has against inflation. It's a store of value, blah, 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 blah. But there's no intrinsic value to be utilized other than a medium of value exchange, right? So when we come to TORUS and UNITY, it's a different beast. Because now we have that same potential, just on paper, right? Doesn't mean it's going to be realized, but we have that same potential where there's a scarce asset. It's got that potential to be a store of value just because of the nature of its supply. But then you give it a purpose. And that's TORUS and UNITY is when you earn these tokens, they have an intrinsic value systemically, which allows you to continue to earn with those tokens. And if you forego and sell those tokens, you are giving up your ability to utilize that asset to earn more of that asset. You're giving it away, and someone else has the opportunity to get those and use them to continue to earn. And so this is so important to understand when we talk about TORUS and UNITY and how different they are. Now, the next level to this is beyond just the fact that, these tokens get you shares in the system, right? It's not just that these tokens allow you to earn more and it gives themselves even more value, right? It does, but there are even more layers to this system. So we talked about these two mechanics. One's called creation, one's called staking. And I want to dive into specifically how valuable this share system is and these two mechanics are to the TORUS and UNITY systems, and why it's so unique and how it's never been done before. So creating is a different mechanic from staking, right? It is kind of like a mint and auto stake, meaning it's kind of like you can buy UNITY within the system for a fixed rate with either PulseX if you're in the UNITY system or TitanX if you're in the TORUS system, right? So that means that the market might go up or down, right? Like a million PulseX or a million TitanX might get you a varying amount of TORUS or UNITY, depending on the price of TORUS and UNITY at that time, or the price of the token, right? But in the system, like if you go through the creation mechanism, you're always going to get the same amount on that day, no matter what the market price is. What this means is price goes above a certain threshold, right? Like let's say let's say TORUS is worth $1 and TitanX is worth $1. So if I put in one TitanX token into the system via creation, I'm going to get $1 worth of TORUS when the price of TORUS and Titan X are at $1. But if TORUS is now $2 and Titan X is still at $1, I put in one Titan X token, I'm creating $2 in value up front. Additionally, I'm earning on top of that, right? So what happens is here, let's say I were to just create and I didn't earn anything. Okay, I just got one token out, but it was worth $2 versus the $1 I put in. Now, when I sell this back for Titan X, right? What's going to happen is now I've sold my $2 of TORUS back into $2 in Titan X. Now, if I go back into create again, I've now doubled the amount of Titan X I had. And when I go back in the system, assuming the price of TORUS is still $2, now I've gone from 1 Titan X to 2 Titan X and 2 TORUS to 4 TORUS. And so this creates the ability to leverage high prices to build your TORUS and UNITY bags, right? And this is just from the creation aspect alone. This is just from what you create as your guaranteed principal at the end of that period. What makes this system even crazier is that you're earning every single day based on the shares that you're getting via creation. Now, when you create or stake one single TORUS or one single UNITY, you are getting 7,744 shares when you're staking or creating for 88 days. It changes on an exponential level as you go shorter. But for the sake of this, for simplicity, we're just going to stick to the 88-day mark because it's easy to remember. 7,744, 7744, right? If you want an easy way to think about this, it just sums to 22, which is kind of a cool thing. So when we're talking about the creation shares, though, at the median point of each of the systems, there is a median point. Like if we're talking about TORUS, right, this median point where the amount of tokens you create up front gets you the same amount of shares as what you can buy on the market and stake. That median point is where the shares are equal on both actions. Meaning if I create with $1,000 or I stake with buying a TORUS or UNITY with $1,000, I'm going to get the same amount of shares for either action. But what happens is you have this, if you can think about this, and actually, you know what I'm going to do? I have a Canva presentation that I've made that I want to do a video on, and I'm going to take a couple screenshots here, and what I'll do is I'll post them here into the comment section, so that way you guys can follow along. If that will work for you guys, give me a thumbs up or a heart or some kind of emoji reaction to let me know if you want me to do that so you guys can follow along here, and I'll pause for a moment. And real quick while I'm thinking about it, if you haven't already, guys, please repost, quote repost, leave a comment, like this space, and really help spread the word here because we have so much education to do to get people actually in the know of what's happening here. And it's so special. This is truly one of its kind on either chain and needs to be understood. Perfect. I've seen tons of thumbs up. Thanks, everyone. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find this presentation that I did. We'll do it here. And I'm just going to find the one slide. I think it is. Yeah, please bear with me here, guys. Oh, this is the wrong one. Let's see. Where did it go? It's going to be this one here, I'm assuming. And let's go to, I think it's this guy here. Yeah, this is perfect. So now for the record, for all of you that are listening, the ratio that it's talking about in this slide is going to be talking about 10 million to 1. Now, that's the ratio specifically for TORUS. But if you want to use this same concept for UNITY, substitute 10 million to 1 to 10,000 to 1. Okay, so let me come back to this here and let's go into, here's the share spectrum here. So I'm just going to post this. If everyone could go into the comment here and take a look at this. So I'm going to explain this here. So at the 10 million to 1 ratio or 100,000 to 1 ratio in this slide, you're going to see that the shares are equal, right? So this is what this continuum, the spectrum is. If we go to the right here where the ratio goes below that median point, so it's less than 10 million to 1 if you're in TORUS, or less than 100,000 1 in the PLSX or Titanx ratio, then what you're going to see is you're going to get more shares per dollar that you are bringing into the system via staking. If you are getting into the system when the ratio is above this 10 million to 1 or 100,000 to 1, depending on what system you're in, what's going to happen is now you're going to get more shares via creating per dollar coming into the system. And this spectrum works like a mirror, right? So if we go to 20 million to 1 in ratio, and I'm just going to stick to this for the Torus side of things, just to make things nice and simple, so I'm not throwing too many numbers around. But at this median point, if we go 2x above this median ratio, so if we go up to 20 million to 1, this means that we're going to get twice as many shares via creating as we will by buying and staking on the market. Now, this exact same effect will happen for staking if we go 2 times below that median ratio. Do you see how that works? It's a mirror of either side of the mechanics. So this means that if we go to from 10 million to 1 to 5 million to 1, now staking is going to give us twice as many shares by buying and staking as creating at that time. Again, from the 10 million to 1 ratio, if you go twice that median ratio to 20 million to 1, you're going to get twice as many shares as staking by buying and staking on the market when using the creation mechanic. If we go twice as low, so 2 times lower than that 10 million to 1 ratio, now shares have that same effect for staking. You're going to buy and stake and get twice as many shares via the staking mechanic as you would via creation. And this creates, I was jokingly saying this in the chats, the Telegram chats, which if you're not in, please go join. We have a lot of amazing conversations in there. And there's a lot of brilliant minds. We have a lot of fun. But when we're talking about this, I've just lost my train of thought completely. So I'm just going to go back to the shares and I'll let this come back. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Wherever that came from. This kind of creates similar to a stable coin, like a peg, right? Where it's, and I was jokingly saying this yesterday, this is kind of like the world's first unstable coin. And that's because a stable coin has a peg and they have mechanisms where if the price goes above the peg, it brings it back down. If the price goes below the peg, it brings it back up, right? And so this is kind of like an unstable coin where it revolves around a peg, but the incentive structure has a time delay and there's rewards involved. And so there's a whole bunch of different complexities and nuance to this that allows, arbitrage, which is what happens when a stable coin goes above or below. There's an arbitrage event where if the price goes above, you can mint USD with, or let's say it's USDC from Circle. You can use US dollars to mint USDC, sell that back down for a profit, mint more USDC with the profit that you had in USD, and that brings the price down back to its peg. Or if it's up, you buy USDC on the market, you redeem it for US dollars, right? Or sorry, the other way around, actually. Yeah, it'd be take your US dollars, buy USDC with it, cash that in for US dollars because you're buying at a discount, and then you're buying up the price. And this is the same thing, but it has different mechanics. So it's kind of like an unstable stable coin to a degree. But what makes this extra special here is that we don't have a dollar peg. We don't have a 10 million to 1 peg. We don't have a peg to any dollar figure. What we have is a peg that increases over time. So what this means is, let's stick to Torus again, but the same thing happens for Unity as well, right? Torus has this floor point at 10 million to 1, and Unity has this point at 100,000 to 1. But both of these ratios are increasing every single day by 0.08%. And if we go to the white paper for either Torus or Unity, so anyone can come and do this here, and you can check this out for yourself, and you go to the earn page, you're going to be able to see how the stake or create page, you're going to be able to scroll down and see the difficulty of these systems. So over 5 years, these floors increase by 331%. So that's 4.31x. It increases over a course of 5 years. Over 10 years, this floor increases by 18.5x or 18.6x. Over 20 years, this floor increases by 345, or basically 346x over 20 years. So this is it creating a higher and higher and higher systemic valuation over time. And what's simultaneously happening here with these systems, because they require you or I to bring in the token that it's built on top of in order to even participate, whether it's staking or creation, this is causing demand to be forced into what it's been built on. And when you are forcing demand into something, you're increasing its value over time. So if you're increasing the value of what these systems are built on and simultaneously increasing the floor price of where this system operates on, can you start to get a visual for how crazy these systems can get? Imagine this, okay? Let's go do some math here. And very loose moon math, okay? It just is just to paint the picture of what's going on here. So right now, because TORUS is at its, roughly at its floor price, and it's a loose floor, right? It depends on what users do. The price can go lower because people are in profit, but this is where the price is going to want to correct back down to at current prices. Okay, so right now the ratio of TORUS is at 8.5 million to 1. Okay, so it's at $1.40. Let's say it's going to go back up another like 15 or 20% or so. Let's say it's going to be $1.60. Okay, so let's say TitanX does not move in price and 20 years goes by. Let's go to the white paper again, and we know that in 20 years, the ratio goes up 346x against TitanX, right? So what that means is this median ratio is going to go from 10 million to 1 to 3.45 billion to 1. So if we were to take the current price of TORUS right now, which is, or like we said, what would be $1.60-ish at this ratio, and we take, so we have $1.61, 1.61, and we multiply that by 346, we get a base price, if TitanX does not move, of $557.06. That's TORUS operating at its base ratio, at its base price, if TitanX never goes higher or lower in its floor ratio than where it only ever sits at its floor. Ever. If TitanX does a 2x, then we get over 1,000x increase in that floor in dollar terms. If TitanX does a 4x, we do over 4,000x. And all these same numbers can be applied to Unity, right? So if Unity is starting at 100,000 to 1, this means that in 20 years, that base price will be, I guess it would be 34.5 million PLSX to 1 Unity. So if we were to go and look at Unity right now and see what that might be. So if we're at the 100,000 to 1 ratio, we're probably sitting around the, where is it here? $2.80, right? That's roughly going to be where that ratio is at the moment. So if we take $2.80 and we multiply that by 346, we get $968.8 if PLSX never moves from this price point in the floor price for Unity. I want to pause and just let that sink in for a second. And it keeps going. These ratio increases never stop. So when you're fighting for shares, right, what you're fighting for is the future capacity to continue to earn in a system that perpetually increases in value against an asset that can also go up tremendously in value. This is the point of these systems. And we haven't even talked about the buy and burn, which buys and deletes, creating scarcity in the TORUS and UNITY supply, as well as building its own liquidity via the build contract. We haven't talked about the burning mechanism that also buys and burns PLSX if you're in Unity or TitanX if you are in the TORUS system or any other possible metric here in the system. These systems are so incredibly overpowered. And we were talking yesterday in the chat, and it is kind of crazy that these haven't been done before, because really, this is just allowing opportunity to capitalize on earning an asset via leveraging both sides of the market. And most systems have come close. We've had a lot of systems where, you can earn token, let's say token A, or let's say in Hex, right? Like Hex, you got the only way to get cheap shares in the system is for either you to bring in a lot of economic energy, like exponentially more economic energy, the higher the price went, or to wait for prices to come down to get shares, right? But imagine if Hex had a way for you to increase your amount of shares as the price went up. Hex doesn't currently have that. This is what TORUS and UNITY have, which incentivizes people to, keep looking at and participating in the system as the price goes up, right? Versus just having a system where when the prices go up, people want to get out and wait for low prices, right? You have so many different mechanics here that are supporting and creating strength in its own system. Like currently right now, so if you guys are looking at the Unity price at the moment, it's pretty high. It's pretty ridiculously high. And there's still $848,000 in the buy and burn for Unity. If we go look at TORUS right now, we can go and see that. Let me just do some real rough math here. So we've got basically 250, 530, 40, 600, almost $700,000 in the TORUS buy and burn after 50 days of operation still. So these systems are incredibly powerful already, and they still have hundreds of thousands of dollars at their disposal. And they'll continue to grow over time, given the way the staking mechanics work, given the way that you have to input or deposit a little bit of, the token it's built on top of, that's whatever TORUS or Unity are built on top of, in order to just stake. It's a deposit fee, which then strengthens the buy and burn and the buy and build, right? And so these systems are incredibly overpowered. But I also don't want to get too deep into the other mechanics, because I really want to focus on the share system. So what I'll do is I will ask that if anyone has specific questions that you want to ask relevant to what we're talking about here with shares, these ratios, how these work over time, please ask for the mic. It's an open forum here for all questions. There's no question too difficult. There's no question too simple. I want you guys to understand this. I really, really, really do. This is one of the most important aspects of these systems to understand, to fundamentally get why they're important and why you need to pay attention and why you don't want to sell and give up your shares, right? So I'm going to start inviting a few people, but if anyone wants to come up, please come on up and ask any question that you can think of. And give me 1 second here. I'm just going to invite a few. Let's go to... And shout out to all of you that are in here. There's actually quite a few that are in here at the moment. So thank you all for hanging out with me and listening in. I know it's a lot to take in when I'm talking and without the visuals so much, but yeah, it's great to see so many of you here. I see a ton of new names. I see a ton of familiar faces. And it's great to have you guys here. Oh, I see Sal's here as well. Let me just invite Sal up as well. I don't know if I actually invited you already. But yeah, guys and gals, come on up. Would love to speak with you. And if you don't have any questions, it's fine. You can also go ahead and comment on on this space and ask a question there too. I'm more than happy to just read out what your questions are if you don't want to come up on the mic, and I can just respond there.
Hey, Cryptographics, just wanted to say it was incredibly informational. As always, I'm in the middle of juggling a baby over on my side, but really grateful for you hosting this space and helping us understand the share system and such. So there were questions that I had that you had already answered. So yeah, just really appreciative. It's really cool, the things that you made.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you being here while you're juggling, because I know how big of a handful that can be. So, it's cool to hear that it's clicking. I know it's a lot to take in, but the fact that it means a lot to me that you guys are here, that you're learning, and that now you're getting it. That's the freaking coolest thing. That's all I care about. If you guys are getting the system and using the system properly, that's a huge W.
You know what's also been really cool is Unity's actually been a easier onboarding tool to PulseChain than any other asset so far. I mean, I know that we're going to have like God candles and such, and things are really cool things are happening in the background with PulseChain in general. But like Unity, it's just been a fun and just great tool. Whenever I've onboarded someone to Unity, and they make their first creation, it's just a really cool interface and UI for them to interact with, and it's a fun game for my onboards. And so I know we're in the early days of things, and there's like developments, and we're learning new things every single day. But man, it's just, and I've been doing my part as well to share my, take my screenshots of my ROIs. ROIs are just insane, absolutely insane, and it really just, people like seeing that, and that's what's been a great tool for me. Whatever it is that I can use to onboard people right now, maybe when it's like, people that are already in crypto and they've just been, down and out, and they've been taking L's and L's after L's. We're waiting for our turn, and like, it just doesn't, this is like one of the harder bear markets that we've seen. I've been in crypto almost 10 years now. And, our time is coming, all that pain that we've been through, it's all going to pay off. Retail's not even here yet. Once retail does get here, it's going to be insane. But the people that you can onboard into, whether it's Torus and Ethereum or just crypto in general, the note coiners, that this has been a great tool that you created for us to do that. And that's just what I wanted to just say to anyone here listening is, if you've been struggling to explain crypto to no coiners, show them this incredible game of Unity and Torus. It really is an easy way to onboard folks. Get their feet wet, get their feet in the water, and then they start to learn about other aspects of crypto, and just try it out. And thanks again.
Yeah, dude, that's actually really, really great to know. And it's kind of exactly what I had hoped to some degree that Unity would be. It would be a way to bring people in. So that's really cool to hear that. I'm curious on that note. What are some of the questions that your onboards are having that, what's like the main thing that if you've brought them to the DApp, what's the first type of question that comes up? And this is just for me so I can know. So when I'm talking about this, I can really bring this out a little bit more.
Well, yeah, when it comes to no coiners, they typically don't, my onboards, it's not all of my onboards. Some of them really, it just clicks for them. But for the people that really are lacking the experience, just don't really have much financial literacy in general. I guess like the questions that really do come up for them is like, okay, now I see my ROIs. Can I sell it right now? It's like, no, I have to try and explain to them what the locking periods are, like the staking, and then how you're putting money into a system, and the system, it has like the share spectrum. And without getting too technical, because I realize when I get too technical with some of my onboards, I lose them very quickly. So the simpler that I can keep things and just like show them like, hey, look, you got $100, $100 just to get their feet wet, and then they're hooked, right? Once you catch that crypto bug, it's contagious. It's 100% contagious. Why are we all still here? Why am I here after 10 years? This is crazy, right? You have these incredible boom and bust cycles, but it is the greatest performing asset class. And I guess, like I said, the simpler I can keep things with my onboards, the better. And I know that, just because I've got the experience I've got, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, incredible things are going to happen for crypto. Absolutely monumental things. And it's like the people that, $100, if $100 in 6 months is, people can forget about $100, $200, $500, $1,000. That's not a lot of money for folks where, it's not breaking their bank. maybe not everyone, but my onboards, they can forget about $100. I actually have a story of a guy from back in 2020. You were able to buy crypto on Robinhood, and he bought $1,000 worth of Dogecoin, forgot about it. Man, he was working at Dunkin' Donuts. He was working at Dunkin' Donuts. And, he calls me like a year later, 2021. And he's like, Sal, I bought $1,000 worth of Dogecoin when COVID hit. And it's saying here in my account that there's $250,000 in here. Like, is this money I can pull out? Like, he didn't know anything about crypto, nothing. But he was able to buy Dogecoin at fractions of a penny right before it went to $70-80 billion market cap, right? That's what I'm saying is like those stories are going to happen, a year from now, 6 months to a year from now. The incredible boom. Retail's not here, like I said. Retail is not here yet, but like onboarding tools like TORUS and UNITY has been a great tool for me. And I'm going to keep preaching that from the rooftop is like, man, get people's feet wet, because once their feet is wet, that's when, they're going to be more comfortable. And when they catch that bug, they're willing to put $5,000 in the market and see how things work. And yeah, that's been, like I said, I didn't really answer your question with like what are their questions? I guess when it comes to no coiners, I assume they know nothing, about investments and stocks in general. I come from a background of TradFi. I could sit here and talk about interest rates and bonds and yields and M2 money supply and such, but I just lose people when I start getting into that stuff, because the education system that we've grown up with has failed us all. It really has. Financial literacy is at an all-time low. It's rampant. It's a pandemic, right? So just keeping things simple will eventually help people open up their minds. And yeah, that's why I take that screenshot of my ROIs. We got 16 minutes here before our daily payouts. I get my onboards calling me every day like, oh my gosh, man, like this is amazing. And there's going to be a learning curve for everybody. And so like I said, like losing $100, $200, $500, it's not the end of the world. But if you can turn that $100, $200, $500 into a passive income machine, or even, $5,000, that's life changing for some folks, So just, yeah, that's what I've got to say.
No, it's great. Honestly, I would say that's a better answer than what I was asking for by far. So, man, it's so true. Yeah, just set it and forget it, put it in there. And you were also hitting on something, just want to go to this while I'm still thinking of it, is I want to talk about specifically the charts and what we're seeing in TORUS and UNITY, because there's a major difference here. And this is relevant to onboards as well, because when we're seeing these crazy high ROIs, right? Like UNITY is like $22 or $21.18 currently. It is rocketing. If you look at the PLSX ratio, it's 746.76 thousand to 1 PLSX to UNITY ratio. The way this system operates is around currently about 100,000 to 1. Okay. And so the point of me bringing this up is because onboards, people that are still trying to understand the system, where the median point is where the price is going to want to go, right? When the price is high, the incentive in the system is to sell and compound, right? When the price is low, the incentive is to buy and stake, right? So it's bringing on either direction, the price is going towards that median point. But because we're high priced in UNITY right now, we have to remember that the price is going to want to come down, and it might be quick. It might be slow. We don't know. It might be like TORUS, where it happened over a period of a couple of weeks, right? But the point here of what I'm trying to say is that for new onboards, for all of you listening, for those of you that are new to the systems, is that when you're going long in these systems, even if the price goes all the way back down to this median range, you're going to still be way up. For example, I made a $10 creation, $14. I guess the $10 went up to $14 with the price of ETH going up 40%. But the price of TORUS has gone down to $1.40, right? At one point, these ROIs were at like 30 some odd, almost over 40x up, right? That put a $14 in, it was almost $600 that was worth. And everyone else was up that significantly too. But the price has come all the way down, nearly 90% now. And the coolest thing is the ROI, even below that threshold, with 35 days of earning to go, 34 days of earning to go, this little creation is still has 785% ROI. Let that sink in, right? That's $14 on day one, right? It's still 9x essentially. So when you are new to this system or you are looking at these prices and they're really high and the ROIs are crazy, the crazier the ROI gets, the more likely, right, that it's going to come down. But this is why it's super, super important to understand, not so much when you're new, but these ratios are really critical. And so if you're new, the big thing to understand is that the system is designed to hold the price around a certain range as it comes down, which means that even when the price crashes, every day that you're earning is like creating a cushion, right? It's creating an increased likelihood that when everyone else is profiting and there's selling happening, you're still going to be in profit, and then you have a choice to come back in the system and use that profit to create more profit, right? That's the nature of this system. And I really wanted to talk about this, especially because you brought it up. But because I was on X yesterday, I saw Crypto Coffee. He made a post on an all-time high chart that I had posted on the Unity account. And it's funny too, because I posted that and I was out and about on my just during my day and started to realize that a lot of people are getting really excited about these high prices. And it started to become really apparent that, if we focused on high prices with the education of what's actually happening here, we could actually run into a lot of, trouble here on social media while people are thinking that things are going south when they're not, right? Because when the prices go high, the incentive to sell increases. And let's say we go to 1,000,000 to 1, right? Let's say we go astronomically high to 1,000,000 to 1 PLSX to Unity. The system still operates at 100,000 to 1. So what are we likely to do? We're likely to come down. But what's everyone going to think? Oh my God, it's game over. Titanx V2, this thing's a scam. Zen 2.0. Oh my God, I told you. When are you guys going to learn? Meanwhile, everyone that's using the system is still massively in profit, massively still in profit all the way down. And if you knew how the system operated, you would know that, these prices are way above where they need to be. They're going to come back down. But what's important is to watch what happens when it crosses that point. Now, if we go to the TORUS chart, what you're going to see is this happening in effect. So there's the TORUS chart and the TORUS dashboard. So if you look at the TORUS chart, you'll see that it was sky high, like around $13, $12. It came all the way down. It started tanking about the first or second week of August, went straight down all the way to $1.40, and it's went sideways now. It's literally creating a floor, and this isn't guaranteed, but if you go to the ratio as well, you can see in real time where this floor was broken through, and it's now gone sideways ever since. And this is one of the most critical things to understand. It doesn't matter how high the price goes. That's inevitably going to bring the price back down. But what happens is if you don't understand where the floor is, you're going to think there's something wrong. And right now we're seeing just how strong the TORUS system is and how strong that makes Unity by default. So again, to bring this back full circle, when you're onboarding people or if you're new, however you can bring this across, I'm still struggling to make this simple as possible because there's a lot of damn moving parts. There's a lot of nuance. It's complicated, right? In all these different relationships and dynamics and the reflexivity and everything, moving parts are just off the charts. But if we can as a whole really bring across the importance of understanding that there is a point that this system revolves around. And if the price goes too high, it's going to want to come back down to it. But when it comes back down to it, everyone using the system in the long format, so the longest or the longer form of creations or stakes, are going to still be up when the price comes all the way back down there. That's going to create this feeling of safety and certainty of like, okay, I at least know what's happening, right? Yeah. If my ROIs by day 20 are like 50x, well, we're probably going to see the price correct. But if that comes all the way back down even to $2, I'm still up 5x, right? Because that came down from $20 to $2 is a 10x reduction. I'm still up 5x, right? And I'm still earning over the next 60 days. So I just really want to echo this to people because we're going to see it. We've already been seeing online people commenting like, when are you guys going to learn? Oh, look, wow, just another Titan-X clone. Like I know people are going to do that because the thing is a chart with a system like this does not tell the whole story, right? It tells the story if you know what you're looking for, but if not, it just looks like another down to the right chart that now is just bottomed for some reason. We don't know why, but it looks like all these other charts, right? Because it's so early. But this is why I wanted to bring this up, because the more educated we are as a whole, as a community, as participants, the more we can educate people of like, no, hold on. You're missing stuff here. And we can begin to let people know what's going on. And that way too, it's like a fire extinguisher to FUD, right? FUD is a question. It's a question of uncertainty, of, lack of knowledge. And by us coming with knowledge of saying, hey, this is actually how it works. This is what it's doing. This is why it's doing it. Watch for this ratio when things are going to shift. You can immediately extinguish the impact of people trying to, whether it's intentional or not, speak badly or poorly or create fear, uncertainty, or doubt around TORUS or Unity. And it's just imperative, in my opinion, for people to understand this so that when you and I see it, we can, instead of being like trying to attack them, be like, quit fudding, quit doing this. We don't have to even address that. We can just address the fact it's a question that needs an answer. And we can just say, hey, actually, this is what's going on here. It's really this simple. Boom. The people that now come to that post can see that, and they can see someone trying to create fear, or not trying to, but someone having uncertainty, and then an answer to that literally factually debunks anything that they were talking about right then and there. And that is so important. So I don't know, Sal, if you have anything you want to add to that. I also saw Hex T come up as well. So shout out to you, man. Good to see you. But floor is your guys.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. Sorry about that, Sal. Just a couple of points just for my own education. And hopefully this is an open-ended question that you may have a good answer for, to dispel what could happen. So right now, my understanding is we're leveraging on PSLX. I may be wrong with that term, but for example, I put in $25 on a creation date, and then I'm making a Unity that's backed by 25 USD worth of PLSX. However, you're almost guaranteeing me 100,000 to 1. Now, and I got a second part to that. How does the buy and burn maybe address that over leveraging? And then why not create a PLSX treasury versus burning? And that came from Hex Execute that asked you a couple days ago. If I need to clarify that, let me know. But right now it looks like I'm benefiting by someone else's loss, that somehow I got to make up the balance of the 100,000 to 1 in PLSX terms.
Right. So yeah, you had I think there was 2 or 3 questions in that. I'll start with just, the balance of PLSX and, its value to, so you said you put $25 in, you're probably up pretty significantly if it was a day 1 or 2 or 3 and it was a longer one. So what it looks like on paper right now is that you put in $25, and, everyone's done a similar thing where they put in, $1 or 1,000 or 10,000 or however many dollars, and they're up multiples on that. So the question is like, what's backing that? How is that going to work? What's really happening here, right? Is that correct?
Yes. To me, it sounds like we're almost over leveraging or using a leverage play on future PulseX in in the system. Without that mechanism, without Pulse or PLS actually backing 100,000 to 1, that's where I need to understand how, and then what if no new users come in after day 90 or 89? If no created Unity, stakes happen or whatnot, what happens to the system then? Does it just do a slow bleed? And this is a sincere question. I'm not trying to FUD anything.
Yeah, no, these are great questions because the answers are the best answers that you could possibly have. And they're autonomous in the sense of like, they can't not happen, right? So this idea of a PLSX treasury, if you look at how you realize value in a system, what is the actual way that you realize value? The liquidity pool. So the liquidity pool is the treasury, so to speak. And if we're looking at the liquidity pool as the treasury, this system perpetually builds its liquidity every 10 minutes. And in the buy and build right now, which that's the contract for the treasury, it's called the buy and build. Actually, I just realized I'm not in the DApp. There is a lot in the treasury at the moment. And we are also very early on. So currently there is $270,000 in the treasury or in the buy and build contract that will be putting that PLSX into the liquidity pool, into the treasury that's going to back the system. Now, simultaneously, you could still be thinking, okay, well, if you're doing the math and you're looking at the tokens and you're like, okay, well, there's a lot of tokens coming out and if they're currently $21 in value, that kind of doesn't really add up. The problem is that people are, there's an assumption in this that there's a few levels of assumption here. One is that everyone should be able to realize all value immediately upon the creation of the system. And this is a system that takes time to mature, right? Now, what happens though is that given that it takes time to build up the treasury, the liquidity pool, to a substantial level where medium players, even then, not just smaller players, but medium players to large players can actually enter and exit and realize value, right? The volatility serves as a way for users to continue to use the system to hedge against, being able to, it's like a reward for, instead of being able to cash out immediately, and in any crypto as well. This is the thing, right? If everyone sells everything, no one gets anything, right? If you even go to BTC right now, you can't sell a fraction of the entire market cap of BTC without absolutely demolishing the price. Same with ETH, same with Pulse, same with PulseX, same with Hex, right? It's impossible. There is rarely 10% liquidity to market cap ratio in a single token on the market. Rarely ever. And that's 10%, right? So the idea that, people are going to come in, there's going to be a one-to-one backing. One-to-one backing does not create a disparity in a leverage that can actually create asymmetrical value. You put $1 in, you get 5 out. You put $1 in, you get 1 out. But the difference here is that what you're doing is you're able to realize that value over time, not all at once, at least initially, right? Because the system is so new. Like, here's the thing, right? When Hex was first made, it had only $10,000 in liquidity, and people were putting in. There was 2 million ETH that went through the AA, right? But eventually, near the top, there was tens of millions of dollars in liquidity, and people could realize all the way up tens, hundreds, millions of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And so, when people are selling now, the treasury is going to be smaller because it's new. But this is where we transition to the second part of the question, is that like, okay, well, what happens if no one stakes, right? Well, this system, it's an impossibility. It's an edge case that you'd have to literally, there'd have to be a team of saboteurs that are going out there, shutting everything down, blanking. They have to go with the Men in Blacks, like, what is it? Like the little thing that makes everyone forget everything and never see this thing again for this system to stop being operational. Because as people every 88 days, as we get closer and closer to people being able to claim their tokens, right? Their rewards and their principal, what's happening is the system is looking into the future and saying, okay, no one's staking or creating into the future. So there's more shares, or there's more days with less shares in the pool, meaning the ROI for the system is going to go up, which means the incentive to participate in the system is going to go up, which means in order to stake, even if the price is bottom, right? It's super low, right? One person coming into stake is going to require them to deposit Pulse or PulseX to stake. It's not free. There's no free rides in the system. So if we assume that creation's off the table and only staking's on the table and people are staking, well, you're going to have a lot of Pulse or PulseX coming in. For example, when there's 10 million, when there's 10 million Unity that are out in supply, I believe by day, I guess it's day at 100-ish, for all 10 million of those tokens to be staked, 50 billion PulseX is required to stake those. Mandatory, not a debate, not up for discussion. It has to happen for all 10 million of those tokens to come in. So in the end, when there's 125 million supply out and only 10% gets staked, I mean, we're not even talking about what happens with the difficulty over time, but that would be 50 billion PulseX if we don't even include the difficulty in the system that scales over time, right? So I'll pause there because I do want to get into, there's a second part, or the third part of what you asked, which was to do with Execute asking about the PLSX burn. And this is really important to understand because when you say it's not going to do anything because you're not going to be able to compete with the PulseX exchange, this is only true if you have no idea about how the system works. So basically, it's only true if you don't actually do any research. If you just think about it for a second, it's like, yeah, you can't compete with PulseX. I want to get to that in a moment, but I want to toss it over to you, Hext, just to see if before I get there, if there's anything else you want me to clarify on that or talk about.
No, you did a good job of explaining what could happen versus what will happen. One follow-up, and again, only day 89 is going to tell, and then every day after that. And I get the incentive. I get the massive incentive, but PulseChain is a degen chain right now currently, in my own not so humble opinion. So everything is about buy early, sell early. Utility is, even though Hex is utility, and I believe Hex has a future, and especially what Actuator has done, Actuate.finance has done to build on top of native staking. And you're doing the same thing with PulseX. Okay, I understand that. I just want to make sure that, to me, I understand future looking. You're going to incentivize me so much to stake at least 50%. But again, we can't predict user or bots. All we can predict is if some of us are into the slow game, which I am. Crypto is a small part of my portfolio, but at my age, I had to come in on the back door because I'm a transition from traditional finance, which I've done very well, even though I've paid government tax and I've sucked middleman D to get where I'm at. Nonetheless, that was the option on the table when I was in my 20s and 30s. Now I've got an option like Unity to augment passive income, which I love. Passive income is the name of the game. I just want to make sure there's no false expectation that that there's not a scenario where the Unity protocol is vulnerable based on actual human interaction with it. And I really want this system to work, but I'm putting my name out there as I'm building a reputation that I want people to understand that I question everything. But I also realize we got to try something too, right? You got to believe in something. The last thing is the liquidity pool. How was that managed? The overall liquidity pool backing up the system generating future looking ROI. How was that? Is that all immutable code? And how does that liquidity pool add or gain from the system?
I'll start with the last part first, just because the other one's a little bit of a longer question. I can easily answer the liquidity pool. Everything is immutable. There's a few parameters that are able to be changed within a threshold, but the liquidity contract has the locked liquidity. It cannot be changed. The only thing that can be ever accessed is to collect and burn the Unity. That's it. Everything is managed by the smart contract. No one can touch it. No one can adjust it. No one can change the range. It's full range perpetually on V3. And the reason why it's V3 is because V3 allows for MEV and sandwich bot protection that V2 does not. And so in order to make sure that Unity is dialed right in, we chose V3 just like TORUS has. So people can start eventually a Unity PulseX pair on PulseX V2, but the contract is specifically on V3. So again, immutable, can't be touched. I followed all the ethos, of Richard Hart, of what I've learned through him, and immutability is, core to this. So the only things that are not immutable are some of the buy and burn percentages to be able to change within a threshold, the ability to move up or down, same threshold, the buy and build, and that's it. Everything else is locked, cannot be changed, and there's no even OA supply. There's no OA that gets an amount of tokens. If Genesis, which is the address that is in the system, which is the no expectations address, if Genesis wants to participate, it needs to put in Pulse or PulseX itself to get supply. So it is by the book, verbatim, and I could have gone even wilder with the parameters that could have been adjusted, but I squished them a little bit because I wanted them to be as close as possible to being fully decentralized, with only the ability to have a guiding hand, so to speak, not literally a hand that can come in and move things around like chess pieces, right? It's only like creating a stronger wind in either direction. And so when it comes though to the idea that the first question that you had, which was more to do with the resiliency of the system, with how's this thing going to work over time, this is the first system of its kind to allow people that get out of the system to give their earning capacity to those that understand the system. And so what I'll do is I'll make this comment. For those of you that are listening that are willing to, or are looking forward to a deal on TORUS or Unity tokens to be able to get more shares in the system over time, please do some kind of emoji just to show you, because this here, it's a very small sample size. It's not much of an experiment. What it's going to show you though is that there is people that are willing to buy when the price goes down to stake and get more shares. Therefore, if people are selling, there are buyers currently that will scoop up that supply. And when they do that, that's going to keep the price up. That's going to bring PLS and PLSX into the system, right? And why? We have to ask the question, like, why? Why are people willing to do that? Because they understand the system. They see the future valuation of it, and they also want to participate in it long term. And this really comes from education. So this system has legs that are stronger and stronger and stronger the more educated that people are on the system. And right now, I would already go out on a limb and say that there are so many already in the chats, in our TGs, in the community, that understand these systems so well that there's no way that there aren't buyers when the price goes down, right? And so every time someone buys and stakes, they're depositing into the treasury, so to speak. They're helping back the system. And when they're locking up the supply, they're allowing the system to be able to elevate itself through the buy and burn and the buy and build, because they're both buy contracts, right? So in terms of I'll say one last thing, HexT. Because the system operates every 88 days, in terms of people can come in only for 88 days and they have to come back in, this means every 88 days the system self-replenishes. This means the system can self-support itself, or support itself a little bit more every 88 days. Not only that, but the fractal is a time vault that every 110 days, as it's building for over 110 days, it deposits its entire balance back into the buy and burn to be able to support its own price every 110 days, making sure there's always something in the system. And remember too, the buy and burn is not just a buy and burn and not going anywhere. It's just deleting value. That's not true. The buy and burn is injecting PLSX into the liquidity pool. So that means the buy and build is not just the treasury. The buy and burn is also part of the treasury. But in doing so, in adding to the treasury, it's removing Unity tokens in this case, because we're talking about Unity. But there's currently $848,000 that's going to end up in the liquidity pool. And we're only on day, like, what are we, 20? Not even 15. We're 16 now. We're on day 16 and we have almost $1 million.
Graphic. I think the light came on. When we buy and burn, what's the token that's burning? It's burning Unity? See, I was thinking it was burning PulseX.
So there's a PulseX burn in the system. Yeah. It's a small one, but the majority is Unity.
You need to make that more clear, because I think I'm not the only one with that misconception.
Gotcha. Okay, so yes, let me echo this. The buy and burn is for Unity specifically. The buy and build is for Unity specifically. 92% of all economic energy goes to, or I guess it's 88% technically speaking, if you want to get really technical with it, but at least 88% of every dollar that comes in is buying Unity.
Okay, that was the piece. See, I thought we were leveraging more on PulseX and the underlying value of that going up. I understand. We're taking PulseX as a core token to enter the system, but we're benefiting by the supply, the Unity supply, always depreciating and getting ever more scarce. Is that a correct statement? I want to make sure that's a correct statement.
Yep.
If I can go on that, not only is Unity getting more scarce and you're forcing demand on Unity, you're building the liquidity backing it to PulseX while shrinking and adding the demand to PulseX. So you're still leveraging PulseX on top of creating demand for Unity, and to go on for.
I get that, but like I said, my fundamental error was what token was being burned or what token was being built. Now I understand it's a benefit to Unity token holders, and that was my missing link, if you will, in the chain of resiliency. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Well, just to go on for, talking about speculation of future demand, that goes for any financial asset. Hex, if everyone stops using Hex is going to go to zero. I mean, with stocks, did stocks only make it because people are buying it? If people stop buying stocks, they're going to go down. That's any financial asset where you're worried about future people coming in. As long as you got a self-sustaining protocol, that's not going to be an issue. Performance sells. So that's all I got to say.
Okay, I'm going to leave and come back listening. Cryptographics, thank you so much for taking the time to ask a retail point of view and to provide that crypto newbie education that's required. I think it was time well spent. So thanks for allowing me to articulate and stumble through tokenomics and lingo that may or may not be misused. And that's really what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to be able to become articulate enough to help bridge that gap between all you stellar devs and people that have a financial background, which I do on the traditional sense, to try to bridge that gap over to that new user that wants to understand why they should buy or stake create Unity versus another token on a blockchain. So I appreciate that. I am learning. I'm a quick study, and I'm always here to be. I'm always here to be rebuked in a way that makes me a more educated user of PulseChain in particular, but of crypto in general. I thank everybody that is offering the education.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Seriously, I'm happy you came up. And again, I just want to echo this for everyone else. There's no questions that are too simple or you're missing. Like, every question is a great question, because if you're asking it, someone else is probably wanting to ask it too. So I appreciate you coming up, appreciate you asking what you did. And it's a super important distinction of like most of this value is going to Unity, not to PulseX. The PulseX burn is only 4.31%. Now that might sound like a tiny bit and it's like not really a whole lot, but maybe in another space, we'll get into how extreme this system actually turns that small amount into over time and why I've been saying, bit by bit that you don't have enough PulseX or even there isn't enough PulseX in existence. And another time we'll get into that. That's definitely into the weeds. But I do want to get to Lazar. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Welcome.
Thank you. Mic check.
Loud and clear, man.
Great. And technically, it's laser. Right. I just found a weird way to spell it. Thank you. But anyway, you know what? I'm really optimistic about Unity because I don't think people talk about the testnet, i.e. TORUS, that's running and has been running that kind of gives us a little roadmap of what we expect, especially when you talked about leveling of the prices and such. I don't want to get too much in the weeds because my high-level questions are, so when we want to look at the top holders of Unity, liquid Unity, we would look at scan.PulseChain, right? Where are we looking to see all of the creations and stakes? What tool can we use for that? Thank you.
So right now, the dashboard that we have up and running is only so if you want to go and see the dashboard that we have, you can see the PulseX burn, you can see the cumulative supply, and you can also see the daily amount of tokens that are going to be unlocked from both creations and stakes. But that's currently the level of detail that we have at the moment. Now, for this dashboard, we actually had, Mike Dean was the one who made it. He actually had to go and create his own custom API and do all the work, back-end work. So it was a lot to get that going. So it might be a little slower to get a full-blown dashboard that has all the metrics and everything and this and that, and all the fancy stuff. But if you want to go there at the moment, you can either go to Unity.win/stats, scroll down, and you're going to see a little button that says Analytics Dashboard, or you can go to titanxhub.com/Unity. And also on titanxhub.com, you can go to the portfolio page. You can actually see your Unity creations or stakes there as well. And there's a little button that goes to the dashboard there as well. So titanxhub.com/Unity brings you to the Unity dashboard where you can see the future Unity daily unlock for the supply and the cumulative unlock as well. Also the PulseX burns, the total deposit amount, the contract day, and that's it for now.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So, Unity is dank, my man. Good to see you up here. I know you were speaking a little bit earlier. Thanks for your input there as well. Did you have anything you wanted to say or ask or you talk about specifically?
Not really. I mean, I know a lot of people are scared about the inevitable dump from early day one guys, but, that's bound to happen. But a lot of us are in here long term, so, like me personally, I'm not touching one damn Unity. I mean, it's stupid for one to take profits in your first year. You're gonna lose 50% of it, so just logically speaking, why would you do that? For a quick little flip, I'm in this long term, PulseChain's 10, 15, 20 years from now. Why we need to change this sentiment of pumping and dumping. That's just so stupid. I just don't understand. But no, you're speaking way better than I could on it. So thank you for your time and creating this.
Well, my pleasure, man. And it's great to have you here as well. And I wanted to ask you because this is something that maybe this is a better way to invite you to speak a little is you changed your profile pic to Unity, to the Unity logo. I mean, what made you actually want to do that, to put Unity as like your badge? Like why would you do that?
Because dude, I've been in crypto for, I don't know, 5 years now, and it was rough. Like I'm not the most technical guy. I do a lot of digging, trying to explain it to my friends. It's just like, they like Mozart, it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Unity makes sense. It's just, it's deflationary. It's perpetual liquidity growth. Everything to make it sustainable in the long run. Like, I'm in this for retirement. Unity's going to make it happen. it just makes sense. Once you understand the tokenomics, it makes sense. And why not get it out there? People need to know about this, and this isn't some shady protocol. It's not like, all they gotta do is watch your content and they'll know. And that, that's it. It's an early protocol. It's good. It's legit, and I love it. So I'm gonna push it.
Love it. That's really cool to hear you say that. It really is. Especially being this early on, and we haven't seen everything play out yet. We've seen little glimpses, so to speak, of how the system operates in the different various scenarios that it'll find itself in. But to hear you have that much conviction is a pretty cool thing for me. It's one thing to build it and see it operating, but it's another thing to see it built, it's working, it's operating, people are getting it, and people are getting it so well that you're that excited and you see that far into the future with it. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. I really appreciate you. You're constantly posting, you're constantly in the chat, helping out. Changing your profile pic to the Unity logo it all means a lot. So just wanted to extend a thank you for that, man. Really.
Well, it's tenfold back at you. So thank you.
Hey man, teamwork makes the dream work. We're gonna see a lot of cool stuff as we all work together to make Unity and Torus exactly what they can be. So I don't know if Laser or Sal, you guys have anything else you want to bring up, but I am realizing we're almost an hour and a half in. I do see someone just requested, so I will bring Mr. Justin French up as well, but I'll turn it over to you guys if you guys have anything you want to add or speak on or whatever's on your mind. And if not, no sweat. I can also go to Mr. Justin French.
Oh, yeah, yep.
What's up,
Go
man?
ahead and pass it off to Justin French. I just wanted to thank all the other speakers because they definitely brought some things to light that I haven't thought about. But yeah, no, this has been great. And yeah, go ahead and pass out the baton. I'm still with baby over here. He's getting tired of Papa, and so just waiting on Mom to come home.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate that still. Justin French, welcome, man.
Hey, you guys are doing great. Good panel. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the you talk about the floor kind of that Taurus is starting to show us, and I've brought it up many times, but it's one of the things that makes me the most bullish, so I'm just gonna put it out there, is that floor and that ratio and how it changes to PulseX. I made that diagram. I don't know if you guys have seen the diagram, but I think that's why long term, our floor to PulseX is there, and that's going to increase. But with all the economic energy going to PulseX, especially with this dip right now in PulseX, our floor in USD is kind of even more of an exponential graph, in my opinion, because I think we're all pretty bullish on PulseX. So you kind of take that half pipe that's the diagram that Unity floor shows to PulseX, and you kind of added the PulseX burn. We're already at 7.7%. So you take these graphs out to 150 days, 300 days, 400 days. That half pipe gets pretty steep. It makes me pretty bullish. So just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know if you guys saw that chart, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, do you have it handy? I would love. Can you post that into the comment section of this space? I don't know if you can do that.
Yeah, for sure. So it just shows we start out day 1, which we're already beyond that, right? So it shows the 100,000 to 1, and it goes up, and not very long at all. The ratio goes to 150,000 PulseX to 1 Unity is the floor. But then if you kind of, these are hypotheticals, but you look at the PulseX burn, you could even add a steeper edge to this chart. But yeah, I'll put it up there right now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the PulseX burn honestly makes the impact that PulseX has. This is why you're bringing up like where I want to go maybe next time fully and really dive into this with much more diagrams, using what you built and really hitting this because the exponential feedback loops that the system creates is kind of bananas, right? Like Justin was saying, you've got an increasing price floor on PulseX, right? Then what's happening is you're driving demand through PulseX, you're increasing the value of PulseX while the floor is increasing relative to PulseX. So you've kind of got, a rebound or like an exponential effect there that can happen. And simultaneously, you've also got this burning mechanism of PulseX, which is beyond what pretty much everyone I've been seeing is really understood so far. I haven't seen, and I don't know if you want to map this out, Justin, but this would be a good project for you, is to map out the relationship of the difficulty in the system. So what you can do is you can map out how much a single token of Unity or Torus costs to stake over time. And then what also happens simultaneously as the supply is expanding, and how this relates to the amount of PulseX required to just stake over an 88-day period.
So it's basically the inverse. I put it up in the nest, but the amount of Unity dispersed per day is the same chart, but inverse. So you look at the chart of, so to reach half, which would be 200, but inverse is around, that 800-day mark. So the contract will be giving out half of what it is now, I believe, around the 800-day. So not only will it cost more to get the Unity because it's dispersing less, but your base ratio is half. So that's like, kind of like a 4x multiple per Unity that the contract versus today. And then you have the PulseX burn. And then that's not including your ROIs. That's just the cost of making it compared to PulseX, right? So.
Yep. That's just the cost of making it is going up at 2x at that point. So
four, because you have less
right.
coming out plus your ratio.
Right.
Yeah.
Where things get really crazy on this front too is when so what you can actually do is you can look at this measurement over time of how much PulseX it costs, right? So let's say it costs, let me go to the DApp. Let's say it costs 100,000 for one Unity, right? So if there's only one supply, right, the stake supply can bring in 100,000 Unity, right? But if there is 100,000 Unity, right, now we go 100,000 times 100,000, because we're taking basically the amount of Unity that are created, we're multiplying that by the number of times that it can bring in PulseX. And for this, we would see about 10 billion is what 100,000 times 100,000 supply is, right? So what happens is what you can do is the difficulty is always going up, right? So at this 800 and some odd day mark, we're going to see it's going to cost 200,000 to stake one Unity for 88 days. So that means for every one Unity, right, we're going to see 200,000 PulseX brought in. If there's 10 million or like 30 million in supply, now what you have to do is multiply that 200,000 PulseX by the supply to understand how much PulseX could be brought in for the total supply. And because this scales over time, my God, when you fully do the math here, you want to see a hockey stick? This is an L, essentially, what happens on a linear chart. If you go on a log chart, it'll actually look semi-normal, but it goes absolutely bananas. And so this little 4.31% PulseX burn is going to burn so much PLSX. It's going to bring in, the system is going to bring in so much PLSX, it's going to be insane. So like I said before, by about day 100, 110-ish, right? When there's around 10 million tokens out, if all of those tokens were staked, it would take around 50 billion, I think it was about 55 billion PulseX to actually stake all those tokens, which means 4.3% of that is burned, which is about 2.5 billion burned in the blink of an eye in one 88-day cycle. And then the next time that cycle comes around, the supply is even larger. The difficulty has gone up even more. And now we're about to suck in and burn even more PulseX. So by the time we get done a year, there's going to be billions of PulseX that have been burned and hundreds of billions of PulseX that will be required to be pulled in just to utilize the system from a staking front. I don't know if you can map this out, but I think this would be really cool to see you guys, or you specifically, Justin, if you want to do this, to map out this curve and what happens in the requirements over time for PulseX in the system. Please tell me. Did that make sense? I don't know if I lost all of you. Maybe I lost all of you. Was it too far? I'll plant that seed there. Maybe it was too far too quick. But essentially I'm pointing to a specific design choice that, is going to cause a feedback loop where there is so much demand on such a limited supply of PulseX that there's nothing that can be done but this system just catapult. And imagine if that's already in the midst of a bull run. It's insane. Same as for Unity as is for TORUS. And so it doesn't really matter to me what PulseX or TitanX do, because the power of these systems are so immense over time that these underlying assets are going to just start to move because of the nature of what these systems require just for participation alone. So I want to check in to make sure for you guys that are up on the speaker panel, did any of that make sense, or did that just completely go over everyone's heads? Because I didn't hear from anyone the last time I checked in.
I had a phone call, but yeah, you were making sense to me. The other thing I wanted to bring up was somebody else's imaginary horrible of, no more money going into the system and that it ending in 88 days. And that's just not true, right? Because yeah, you have the fractal that's coming in at 110 days. But if you take the money that's in there now, plus the fractal and all the stuff, you do the math, and 1% a day will run for like 400 days at least, because you can never run out of money because you're continuing to take 1%. So it's not, you don't take 1% a day and it's 100 days, right? I put it in the chat a while back, but if you take 1% a day on $100, it takes 200 days. 200 days? No, I can't remember the math, but it takes 200 days and you still have $10 left if you started with $100. So the pushing this money out lasts a lot longer than these 88 days, 110 days marks that everybody talks about. And that's an imaginary horrible, right? Because it's just not going to happen, like you said. There's too many incentives, but I just wanted to say that to that. I can't remember who was up here, but the money that is in there lasts a lot longer than you think.
Well, exactly. And I mean, you add all things up. That's a great point. So thanks for bringing that up. Aside from it being like an imaginary horrible and, such an extraordinary edge case that I don't really think even in protocols that don't do well, that doesn't happen, right? There's still people that participate to some degree, it's useful in the sense of, we can easily dispel it, and then we can add in all the salt and pepper and sugar and spice that Unity and TORUS bring that really make it so that, everyone's going to be digging in no matter what. But yeah, it's definitely, if there's ever a protocol that makes it impossible for that to happen, this is as close as I've seen it. So Unity is dank. Go for it. I saw you open your mic up.
I just wanted to add, someone in Telegram, I forgot who, called this flywheel. And it really just clicked at that point. Like, Unity is just an engine. It's always spinning, and sometimes it's just going to be on idle for a little bit, and that's just, no funds coming in, but it's always going to be rotating, making, ha- making financial energy flow in a way to make it more sustainable. So that's all.
Yeah, I think that was my man Crypto Kool-Aid. He speaks in flywheel. He loves the flywheel, so that's probably him, because he's one smart cookie, and he's been in the chat as well. So I don't think I have much more I want to speak on today, though. Feeling like we're getting to the point where this is a good, nice, slow pace that we're kind of winding down to. So if anyone else has anything they want to chime in on, go for it. But if not, we'll wind this down soon. So I will open up the floor to you guys if you guys want to have any final comments. And if not, yeah, we'll shut her down. Thanks everyone for the great space. Cool. You guys are easy. So again, thanks everyone for being here. There was over 50 people here at one point, that was really cool to see that all you guys showing up here for a TORUS and UNITY space. So what I'm thinking so far is I might want to do just a couple of these a week during the week, just Tuesday, Thursday, and keep things a little bit simple. For now, I do want to blow out my voice like I did last week. That sucked. So it's going to be a little bit easier on the old vocal cords. So we'll do these regular, but a little bit more sparse. So expect another one on Thursday. There'll be a TORUS and UNITY space as well. And again, if you're not in the Telegrams, please join the Telegram. There is it's t.me/TORUSWin or t.me/UNITY.win. And if you haven't already, go to the DApp and just check it out. Play with it. Toss in $1 on PulseChain. Toss in $10 over on TORUS. And you can see how the system works in real time and get a feel for it. Because that's the biggest thing, is there is so much going on here that the easiest way to actually learn what's happening is to just play around with it, to watch it work in real time. But you honestly cannot watch it and how it works without actually having something that's working in the system. So that being said, thank you all for being here. Make sure that you are following at TORUS.win here on X, myself. Make sure you're following all the speakers that were here today: Sal, Unity is Dank, Laser, Hex Model T, and Justin French. And we'll see you guys on Thursday. Thanks a million for being here. Have a wonderful day, and peace.